Hello everyone, I'm Rwan Oday, and I'm from Group 1, and I'm going to be discussing the things my group did and what every other group did. So, my Group 1, we did an activity which revolved around creating problems and then making them worse rather than solving it, to sort of understand what makes a problem and what parts we should prevent. And uh, essentially, the idea was when you learn how to make a problem worse, by extension, you learn how to solve it better because you recognize what you shouldn't do. So I enjoyed watching the groups come up with solutions because some of them were in ways like a little bit absurd. For example, one of the questions was like, how would you make a tsunami alert worse? And then one of the groups talked about telling them to go to the ocean. And whilst that is absurd as a response, it's a good play on what you shouldn't do as when there's a tsunami. You shouldn't be going towards the water. You should be evacuating away from it. So that sort of gave me the perspective that, yeah, it is important to know what makes a problem worse to know what makes it better. When it comes to the other groups, though, I liked some groups more than others. I particularly enjoyed the activity where it revolved around a group of people, a couple of people from each group, and they'd each get a piece of paper, which is their, perhaps it was an object, and then one person would have a different object from everyone else, and they would take turns describing the object, sort of figure out who was the imposter, in a sense. And I enjoyed it because it kind of made me analyze people's answers a lot more, because let's say everyone had cake and then one person had a cupcake, and that one person described it as small and delicious and everyone else said it was delicious. So it's like, oh, that's the odd one out. That's doesn't follow the status quo, so it must be the imposter. And that kind of made my brain think a little bit about analyzing people's behaviors as I mean, I suppose that's part of the plan. But there were some activities that I disliked, particularly the one where it was a group and it was essentially like guessing something based off the emojis. I felt like the questions were far too simple, and because of that, the game became more about who could raise their hand the fastest versus who could figure out what the emoji stood for. So let's say it had an apple and a doctor, and then everyone was like, oh, an apple a day keeps a doctor away. But everyone got that within seconds, and it was just a game of, okay, who could put their hand up the fastest, which didn't really feel very critically acclaimed, but it was fun nonetheless to, I guess, compete. It was competitive, which in some ways helps with critical thinking. Another activity that I enjoyed somewhat was the 369 activity. I felt like it was a bit of a balance between, I guess, agility, because you'd have to think really quickly about what your number is and then say it out loud, and having to think about whether that number has a 3, 6, or a 9 at the end, which is surprisingly pretty difficult when you're going in sequence in a rapid rate around in a circle. So yeah, what other activities did I like? I didn't like the mafia activity. I felt like it had good intentions behind it because, in essence, it felt like it should have been fun, but I guess it was mismanaged, or it wasn't carried out very well because a lot of people were just confused about the rules and how to partake in it at all. So I felt like there was something there, and I appreciated that, but overall it felt like a waiting game between choosing different people rather than figuring something out, because there wasn't much to figure out. Your eyes were closed and stuff like that. So I guess that's what I would think. I think overall I really enjoyed, I guess, getting to engage with my classmates and other group members. I built a couple of friendships, which is really important to me, and I built a friendship with my group mates too, which arguably I would say is pretty memorable. So overall, a 7 out of 10. Thank you.